Hi there, this is Jen, and thanks for stopping by. Today we're going to have a little bit of fun creating backgrounds with alcohol inks. If you don't have alcohol inks though, stay tuned. I've got you covered as well. I'm also going to show you how you can clean up the alcohol inks after you're done, especially when you use it with a stamp or a stencil or something like that. And I just wanted to give a word of caution if you are sensitive to smells. The smell of the isopropyl alcohol as well as the alcohol inks can be very strong. So please work in a well-ventilated area or wear a mask. Just be safe when you are working with these products. The base for all of my cards are going to be Grafix craft plastic. I prefer it over Yupo because you get more and it is less expensive. I'm also going to be using a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. This is 91%. The higher percentage, the better. This is going to be the same as the blending solution that you get with the Ranger or whatever brand of alcohol ink you buy. I'm using a pipette so that I can grab that alcohol ink out of the container. I also, a lot of times when I'm using alcohol ink, like to use a baby aspirator. And I've just started using some canned air using alcohol inks, and I'm not that great at it yet, but it is fun. And so there's lots of alcohol inks out there, different brands. I have the Marabu brand and Ranger. And then there's also Brewery Reese and some other brands out there. So there's a wide range of colors and products to choose from. And alcohol inks dry fairly quickly. There are areas that don't dry as quickly, but for the most part, when you've got the alcohol ink on your paper, is going to dry fairly quickly, and the blending solution or the isopropyl alcohol is going to help to move that color around again. So if your ink is drying and you still want to work with it, all you have to do is apply a little bit of that isopropyl alcohol and it will reactivate that color and start moving it around. You can use all sorts of things on your alcohol ink backgrounds, like so much stuff. Here I'm trying to use a little bit of some bubble wrap to apply some texture. The problem is I had it too wet, and so once I pulled that texture away from the paper, the alcohol ink just moved in towards each other and it kind of faded out that impression. I also took a red rubber stamp and dipped it into alcohol ink and stamped on my a background, and I'm going to show you how to clean that stamp a little bit later on in the video. But next I'm applying a few different shades of blue right in the corner, and I'm taking the canned air and moving that ink around. I'm also using the isopropyl alcohol just because the canned air dries the ink out a little bit faster than normally would be drying by itself. And so I'll take that alcohol and the inks and just keep applying ink until I feel like I have a design that I like. I really love the wispiness that the canned air gives. You can also get that with the baby aspirator. It might not be as dramatic as with the canned air. But the effects are still really beautiful. And then I'm going to take the other corner and use some shades of pink and use that canned air again and just move that color around. And I mentioned that the paper I'm using is Grafix craft plastic. It comes in opaque white and it comes in a black as well, which is awesome for metallics and like glittery alcohol inks. And one of the reasons I love it is because it takes heat really a whole lot better than Yupo does. And so that is a plus. So if you don't have alcohol inks, you have alcohol ink markers, you can use those instead. And all I've done here is I've just taken my alcohol markers, put a little bit of color down, and I'm using my pipette to grab some of that isopropyl alcohol and drop it onto my background. And that's pretty much all I did for this. I love those big circles in the backgrounds. I always try and go for that effect. That is so pretty, I think. And so my next background, I am using some purple and yellow. And this background, I am going to try and do some stamping. And so I am going to be taking a really pretty stamp by Whimsy, which is the Winter Roses stamp. And the background was a little bit too wet. Again, I don't wait long enough before I stamp, and so it did not leave an impression of that stamp. If you were doing this on a gel plate, this would be something that you could do and you'd get a really good impression. but just on the craft plastic is not leave a good impression. So what I'm going to do is I try several times to get it, and of course it's too wet, and as soon as I remove that stamp, all that color is going to move back in because it is so wet. So I decided to go ahead and use the alcohol lift ink. And you have to wait until your background is dry before you do this. And then it's just applying the ink to the stamp just like you would any other stamp and stamping it on. And then you kind of buff it out and you can see a faint impression of the stamp. And as well, you can take that stamp that you just used the lift with and stamp it on a piece of paper and get an impression of that stamp as well. And then after all of my panels have dried, I am going to take a paintbrush and dip it in the isopropyl alcohol and basically just splatter all of the backgrounds. And this gives a really cool effect of basically splatter. What it does is the isopropyl alcohol moves that alcohol ink out, and it makes these pretty little like bubbles all over your background. You cannot do this when it's wet. It will just fade out and disappear. So you have to do it when it's dry. And to clean up all of your supplies, all you need is some gel hand sanitizer and a baby wipe or a cloth. And all I've done is apply that sanitizer and cleaned it off with a baby wipe, and that is it. It cleans up super nice. And then these are the completed cards. I didn't show the assembly on each of the cards, but all of the products that I'm using will be listed below. They are all Whimsy Stamps products. That first one is the butterfly. It's probably my favorite, but this is a close second right here. Here's that bubble background that I used the alcohol markers on, and I just made some little balloons using a micron marker and colored up that little Yeti, who is super adorable, and made a birthday card for that. And then the next card is the purple and yellow card, which I really like as well. And one of the things about the craft plastic is it is very hard, if not almost next to impossible, to die cut. So what I did instead was I took a piece of paper and die cut it using a circle and then placed that over the background. And then I added the hello sentiment. And then for the last card, I went ahead and I used this heart die from Whimsy and offset that a little bit. I trimmed down the panel a little bit smaller than my card base panel and then added a sentiment and sequins to that as well. And that will finish off the cards. This was a lot of fun. If you don't have alcohol inks and you want to try to create some backgrounds and you have alcohol markers, all you need is some isopropyl alcohol, 91%, or the higher the better, so 90% or greater, which you can get at Walmart. The baby aspirator is something that can be purchased from the Dollar Tree. And so I hope you give it a try. This was a lot of fun, and I hope you liked the video. So if you did like the video or find it informative, please go ahead and give a thumbs up. As always, thanks so much for stopping by, and I hope to see you soon.